Welcome to Solar Notions. This is a book companion episode, a Solar Operations Manual in audio. It's about book one, and it's the foreword and where this book came from. So this is the book that I literally wished it existed back in 2020 when I joined Solar. I walked into the first operational role. I had an engineering degree. I was from renewable energy. I was super confident. Well, first week, the gap between understanding how solar works and how it operates in practice, I need to tell you, it was pretty big. Nobody warned me about DC arcs, live modules, loose connectors, inverters burning out, Modbus IDs missed, and data gaps and all of that. So it was pretty wild in the beginning. Then with time, I realized the knowledge existed, but it was scattered across PDFs, PowerPoints. Most of it was locked in people's heads and unwillingly was kind of hoarded as a competitive advantage because nobody had the time to really take you through it in a systematic progression. Pretty much was, I'm going to push you into the water, and it's kind of like a sink or swim. And the first book pretty much will take you by the hand to learn why we're doing this, what are the important things to know, and how to come on top in your early days, whether you're an individual joining O&M or you're an established professional that right now you're moving into a leadership position or even the position of senior leadership. But before that, I'm going to take you through my story and where specifically the seed of this book began. So the year is 2022, and in 2022 I had a burnout at the end of the year, but it was not that kind of burnout that I completely burned out. It was a burnout that put an end to my tenure in an active O&M role. So 2022 started with February storms that were 3 in a row, one more intense than the others, and then an intense summer with fires, revamps, repairs, and we were 5 or 6 people running that show in O&M. And pretty much most of us were already running on fumes, on empty fuel. And by the middle of the summer, I was like, okay, I cannot handle this. And as we were progressing into the autumn, I could see my fellow colleagues signing off one after the other until I found myself in November without my team, without my crew, handling the amount of work of 3 people. So then that was the moment where I really had to pull the ejection. I couldn't handle it anymore. And also that's the moment when I decided Solar Notion is going to be a thing and I'm going to write a book for those that come before me. And the thesis, or how to put it, the philosophy behind it starts from a few understandings. First understanding is that we need to look at the operational sector, which is pretty much service in terms of O&M, across 3 dimensions: intensity, complexity, and diversity. So what is intensity? Intensity is how fast and how intense your reaction as a service, as an individual needs to be, how much energy you need to burn in order to fix something, restore, or do damage control. That is running from site to site in summer heat in order to restore production. That's pretty much. Complexity is how deep and how broad you need to deploy your skills, your stakeholder management, your team. It is how intricate a problem is. And diversity is the different types of tasks that you handle. Maybe you fix inverters, then you fix SCADA, and then you have to deal with PR calculations, or you have issues with health and safety, or you need to train a new team member. And these together are the dimensions on which your effort is expected. Now, newsflash: a normal human being cannot handle more than 2 of these at a time. Just think of it the same triangle in terms of quality, price, and time. You can only have two at the same time. In this case, the expectation, because we're speaking about a gap, the expectation is to have always intensity, always complexity, and always diversity. It is madness to be able to handle all of them at the same time. So you need to pick your battles, and you need to pick which one is your main dimension on which you really want to put your efforts, and which is the second dimension that you can handle for a little while in parallel. And of course, it's important for you to understand which dimension you're going to drop. Let me give you my example. As an engineer, always in love with technical complexity, I picked complexity, and I picked it more and more. I can handle complexity and intensity, but I have seen that the moment that I bring in diversity, the amount of attention that I give to solving problems goes down, and my ability to solve problems implicitly kind of goes away. So starting from this understanding with the three dimensions, I thought long and hard, okay, but how do you manage to reduce the workload or the weight on at least one of these dimensions so that we can have an O&M and technical asset management, let's call it the operational side of the business, which is sustainable? The short answer is, with the current existing capacities in terms of finance, people, and technology, we cannot throw bodies at the problem of making plants operate better and making services that support this operation better. So the only way to get there is to automate. But before we automate, I did a little bit of backtracking. What do you need to do? Because when you automate, you need to automate something, a process, something that is map. So before you automate, you need to be able to run, meaning you need to be able to execute your O&M, technical asset management service, with the proverbial pen and paper, with a Kanban board, with stickers, with report templates on a piece of paper. Of course, I'm exaggerating with this, but this is the fundament from which it starts. But then let's backtrack again. When can you run with at least some degree of peace? Because running means you have a baseline that you need to follow. However, we know, and probably most of you have experienced, a solar plant, it's always something with curveballs that just surprises, and sometimes it's a Pandora box that you open at commissioning or when you receive the new plant after 5 years of running. So before you run, you need to fix. You need to make sure that all the risks associated to the plant are tackled. And which are these risks? Well, first of all is the plant itself or the portfolio, where you need to have a good way of assessing its quality, its vices, from where surprises are going to come, from where non-conformity, non-quality will rise. This comes with experience, but also the standards and existing technology allows you to see this. But the other source of risk are the people. Untrained technicians, tired engineers, unaware managers. Put them all together and they're a ticking bomb. So book one is about fixing, and fixing is reducing the immediate risk that your operations represent to the plant itself. So this framework was crystallized when I committed actually to writing the book, and I needed really something that was streamlined. So that's why I started with Fix, to be able to bring things at the end game, which is automation. And the good part is we have the means to automate. The challenge, I'm not going to say it's the bad part, but it's a challenge, is making sure that everything that is within human control and responsibility is ready. Because a machine, if you give it garbage, it's going to push garbage out. If you give it poor instruction, it's going to mess up your actions. So you better clean up your act before you start automating. And this is what Fix is about, is helping people dig out the operational chaos. And of course, the chronic disease of O&M is so much time is spent fixing that there's no mental or human resource left for running, let alone automating. So that's why this progression matters. And that's why Book One exists. Now, I did mention to you that there are 3 books: Book One, Fix; Book Two, Run; and Book Three, Automate. Book Two is going to be focused on the transition from individual problem solver to operations leader. It's going to be exclusive to premium members of the community. And there you're going to see and you're going to read how to go from I achieved my autonomy, I'm able to handle a lot of things on my own, to I'm managing to keep a service together, a team, and to deliver. And Book Three is going to focus on using technology to actually have the strategic impact that it is promised. And you can also find that exclusively in the premium community. Now, you cannot skip the stages. I've watched people try, or they just did their best, and it doesn't end well. Now, we're going to stop here because this story is for the next episode. And if you wonder, who is this book for? Well, this book is the knowledge that would have changed my first 2 years if it existed. And this book is that mentorship compressed, and it's for individual practitioners, engineers, coordinators, but also managers, people that break into O&M, and you can be a risk to your own self. My recommendation is there are 10 notions in the book. I'm not going to read them out to get into the details because these are going to be the chapters. But if you join the community or you're already there, take 1 notion per week. That's 10 weeks, and implement them. By week 10, you're operating at a different level. Of course, that depends on where you start and how much effort you put into it. But the liberation promises that you work less frantically, you're going to make fewer mistakes, and you're going to advance faster. And now this book starts where most solar content stop. It starts a few days before commissioning. And in the next episode, I'm going to walk you through a story, and we're going to dive deeper into the Fix, Run, and Automate. See you in the next episode.